Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So this is in Bustle. This was pretty awesome actually. Bernie Sanders might run in 2020 because he doesn't want Joe Biden to win. I'll put the article in the bottom. The Hill reported on Sunday that Bernie Sanders is considering a 2020 presidential run. When asked if the Vermont senator was keeping the door open for another go at the presidency, an unnamed associate of Sanders replied that yes is the answer, according to The Hill. The same associate suggested that Sanders doesn't want Joe Biden to win the Democratic nomination should the vice president seek it. Sanders thinks he's earned the right to run again, and he believes if he would have been the Democratic candidate, he would have won, sources told The Hill. The last thing he's going to do is step aside and let Joe Biden take it. Jeff Weaver, a longtime advisor to Sanders, also confirmed that the 2016 presidential candidate is keeping the door open to a 2020 presidential run. Still, according to The Hill, Sanders himself has refused to rule out a 2020 run early in July. That's amazing. And I agree with him. He has earned it. He has earned it. He was cheated in the last primary. Yes. He's absolutely earned it. He's pulled the country in a very particular way. The country has fundamentally changed. The idea that single-payer healthcare is the majority now. Keep in mind, 8 years earlier, you couldn't even get public option. Wouldn't even put it on the table after saying he was going to put it on the table. The country has fundamentally changed. Democrats are having this conversation about single-payer now, and again, when it wasn't even on the table before. I'm making a point to you that the public itself has been pulled in a particular direction. And it's because of Sanders. It's because of Sanders. To some degree, Obama, but Obama in a different way. It's almost this thing of, hey, this is the fake idea of progressivism. This idea right here, this quantity. This guy says certain things, but he's not necessarily living up to what he's saying. Oh, but this is the real thing. This other guy, the guy who calls himself a socialist, that's the guy who's the real thing, and that's the guy who believes it. You saw a disparity between those things, and seeing the disparity between those things, you had people to get this kind of aha moment in politics, this awareness of sorts. And you hear a lot of people say it. The Sanders was the ones who kind of opened their eyes or brought them into the process. That's true. That's true. Now, you can take shots at him. You can call him a sellout and all this other stuff, and a lot of people do. I absolutely hate the fact that he's working with Democrats. But, look, everybody has a particular perspective. And based on their perspective, they're going to function in a particular way. I, as somebody who's watching the news and giving my honest opinion, have different objectives than a person who's a politician who's who's functioning in a political space. I can't necessarily blame Sanders for the choices he made, particularly if he has this idea of later or what he's trying to do in the long run. Meaning, let me ask you this. To any degree that's possible, is it possible that Sanders is looking at a 2020 run? And I'm going to say that the 2020 presidential election is going to be the most pivotal in our history, or in the very least in our lifetime. Not because of Trump running, but from the primary in the Democratic Party. The primary in the Democratic Party is going to be the one that's going to be the change of soul of this party. That's what I'm making the point of. So yes, Sanders does want to run in 2020. He wants to completely shatter this idea of the Obamites, the Clintonites, holding sway and control over the party itself. If he wins the primary in 2020, Sanders will be president. That's what it boils down to. He's the most popular politician that we have in this country right now. No, he's not a Democrat right now. He's still an independent. If he runs as an independent, he will shatter the Democratic Party in total. He's not going to do that. He's going to run as a Democrat. Now, is it possible that part of the reason he's being this quote-unquote Democrat outreach coordinator is because for the most part, he's being sent around to talk to all these people and engage with all these people, and he's keeping himself relevant for 2020? Meaning, from the Democratic Party standpoint, they're like, hey, we need to use this person to go out and get these people back into the democratic process. From Sanders' standpoint, I'm going to go out and I'm going to talk to all these people, and I'm going to tell these people all of these ideas that I was making when I was on my campaign trail. those people are going to associate themselves with me, not necessarily the party. And when I run again in 2020, those people are going to vote for me. Now, if he's looking at it as he needs more people in the process itself because he's going to run for the Democratic Party in 2020, there's a logic to it. There's a logic to it. You may disagree with it. You may hate the fact that he's doing it. You may believe that he can run as a third party. You may even believe that he could strip off as an independent. But certainly you believe there's a logic to it. If Bernie Sanders is going to run in 2020, certainly he understood that he couldn't necessarily burn his bridges in 2016. Meaning anything that he did to try to pull himself from the party in 2016 would have evaporated his chances of running in 2020. That's also possible. That's also possible. I know we were going with this idea of him stripping off and running as a third party. Yeah, I think I would have wanted that too. Particularly if he was trying to build a third party right now. But assume for the moment that he just disagrees with you. You're having a conversation with him. He disagrees with you. He kind of makes this point. Look, my chances of winning the presidency is emboldened by me keeping myself relevant, keeping myself popular, and being at the forefront of democratic politics. That makes sense. It's not necessarily crazy. I would like a more Herculean approach, but in regards to strategy, if you're looking at pure political strategy of what's my best road to get to the presidency that doesn't necessarily involve too much risk, yeah, that would be it. They cheat him in 2016. I'm not necessarily going to call it out. I'm going to use the party's apparatus to essentially go around the country and try to get people interested into the political process and pull them into this process. I am being a sheepdog, yes. In 2020, I'm going to run again. And those people who have gone around the country and talked to, who I've sheepdogged, those people will vote for me. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Whether it will work or not, I don't know. I would say whoever's running needs to attack the voting process. They need to, look, the voting in this particular country is atrocious. And it's not because of Russia. It has nothing to do with Russia. You're putting your ballot into a machine that you yourself can't verify your vote. That's problematic in and of itself. Those should be paper ballots. They should be paper ballots. None of this thing of allowing people to get kicked off the voting rolls because they have an ethnic name or something. I'm saying you need to shine a spotlight on the voting process itself, and you should protect the people who are going to vote for you. Meaning, those people who are being disenfranchised in all of these states across the country. Democrats doesn't say squat about it. They don't say squat about it. And lose thousands of votes due to the shenanigans that Republicans take in those countries. In those states. Shenanigans that the Democratic Party itself used in the primaries. So yes, both of them are guilty for it. I'm just making this point that in the general election, you're losing votes. You're losing votes from the various reasons in those states. That's the point I'm making. Once the Voting Rights Act was gutted, that was it. One state after the next essentially started passing all these voting laws. Oh, you can use a gun license, but you can't use a student license. Or this particular guy looks like he's in 2 different places. We're going to take him off the voter rolls. I'm saying you need to protect those people. They're doing that in order to adversely affect the Democratic vote. If you're going to run in 2020, hell, if you're going to run in 2018, I'm just saying candidates in general, you need to defend your vote. You need to defend your vote. Our voting system is porous at best. It is not the best election system in the world, as they tell you. It is all sorts of atrocious problems, and I'm making the case that those problems can sway an election. You shouldn't let it. You shouldn't let it. You should know what your vote is. If Sanders ran in 2020, he would get my vote. It would be an easy choice. And I would stomp for him in the same way I stomped for him in 2016. I think he's earned it. I don't necessarily think he will be a Mr. Wizard in that office, but there is something very specific that people fundamentally miss. When people talk about what Sanders can accomplish, they go based on this idea of current politics or current political landscape. He's making the point that the current political landscape is somewhat contrived. The number of people who would be a part of the political process, if they thought the political process worked, would swell. It would swell. Meaning, if you have this guy on a bully pulpit bashing people trying to get these things involved or trying to get certain policies passed, people will fall in line. The presidency is a very powerful position, not necessarily for legislation, but for what it gets across as the mandate of the country. Yes, in a bully pulpit, are you telling me that he can't necessarily whip up this kind of outside support, this kind of grassroots support, and pull that grassroots support into the political process? Yes, and that political process will put pressure on the people who are in office. You have pitchforks, so you have dollars. I think he'd bring in more pitchforks. So, yes, he would get my vote. I would vote for him, be ecstatic to vote for him. Go to one rally after the next. He's earned it. He's earned it. However you feel of him, at the very least, you have to acknowledge this country has fundamentally changed in regards to how it's viewing this stuff. That's him. He took the heavy lift. So, alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, rate, subscribe. You can always support the work through PayPal or Patreon. Thank you.